I'm Deanna. Sitting here in the quiet of my new townhouse, sipping coffee by the window, I'm reminded of how far I've come. 6 weeks ago, the court's decision was printed in black and white, awarding me a 50% ownership of the family house. It wasn't luck, it was the result of meticulous proof and a long-fought battle. The day of the mediation was a crisp Portland morning. I walked into the downtown law office, a folder under my arm and a coffee in my hand. The receptionist led me to a sterile conference room. White walls, a long table, and 2 untouched pitchers of water. The hum of fluorescent lights filled the silence. I sat down, placed the folder in front of me, and waited. A few minutes later, the door opened. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, entered first. My father, a man of strict principles and a short temper, was in his pressed suit, his jaw tight and his eyes ablaze. My mother, always the picture of elegance and false kindness, wore her usual soft blue coat. Behind them trailed my younger sister, Lily, 2 years my junior. She was twisting the strap of her purse, her face pale. Deanna, my mother said softly, using that tone she always did when she needed something. You look tired, sweetheart. Good morning, I replied, my voice calm and detached. She gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You didn't have to make this so official. We could have talked. I tilted my head. You changed the locks. Talking didn't seem to be our family's preferred method. Her smile faltered. Just then, the mediator, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, entered, followed by both attorneys. My attorney gave me a reassuring nod as we took our seats. The first few minutes were full of polite formalities, but I knew the real storm was coming. Then my attorney opened the folder and started laying out the documents. This file, she said, sliding it toward the center of the table, contains proof of Ms. Deanna's direct financial contributions to the property located at 345 Elm Street over a 12-year period. My father leaned forward, scoffing. That's ridiculous. Those were gifts. She was helping her family. My attorney didn't flinch. The payments were repeatedly labeled as temporary assistance with the expectation of reimbursement. You'll also find text messages where both you and Mrs. Thompson referred to those payments as loans. We have evidence of concealment of assets as well, bank statements showing you maintained substantial savings while requesting money from Ms. Deanna under the pretense of financial hardship. My mother shifted uncomfortably. Her perfectly manicured hands trembled as she reached for the papers. This is being twisted. We never. I interrupted her. You told me I didn't have a home anymore. Remember that. The room went silent. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at me pleadingly. That was a misunderstanding, Deanna. We were angry. It's in writing, my attorney added, sliding another page across the table. Dated and time-stamped, 11:30 p.m. The text reads, we changed all the locks. You don't have a home anymore. Let's see how brave you are now. Haha. The mediator adjusted his glasses, frowning. That message certainly suggests intent. My father's face turned crimson. She's twisting everything. That text was a joke. I met his glare evenly. So was your idea of family. The mediator tried to regain control, but the tension had already snapped. My attorney continued methodically, pointing out every inconsistency, every false statement. The evidence stacked higher, showing the mortgage payments I'd covered, renovation costs, utility bills, and even the receipts for the new locks. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. The opposing attorney, an older man with weary eyes, cleared his throat and leaned toward my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, he whispered urgently, we have a problem. You need to call me immediately after this session. The irony hit me like sunlight after a storm. I smiled, just barely. There it was, the line from my nightmare finally playing out in real time. My mother's composure cracked. "Deanna, please," she said, her voice wobbling. "We're family. Don't do this." I looked at her for a long moment, then spoke softly. "You're right. We are family. That's why I gave you chances, years of them. But family isn't a free pass to take until someone breaks." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Yes, you did," I said. "You just didn't want to believe it." My father slammed his palm on the table. "After everything we gave you." I cut him off, my voice steady. "After everything I gave you. You didn't raise me, you drained me." For a heartbeat, no one spoke. The sound of the air conditioner filled the space between us, like white noise over the wreckage of our relationship. My attorney finally broke the silence. "Given the evidence presented, we're requesting a 50% ownership interest in the property or equivalent compensation based on current market value." The mediator nodded slowly. "It's a reasonable demand considering the documentation." My father looked like he might explode. My mother reached for his arm, but he jerked away. Lily sat rigid, staring at the table. When the session ended, my parents rushed out first, whispering to each other in panic. Their lawyer followed, phone already in hand, his voice sharp. "Yes, I'm aware." I stayed seated for a moment longer, staring at the folder in front of me, the quiet weapon I'd built out of betrayal. As I stood, my attorney smiled faintly. "You handled that well," she said. "Numbers don't lie," I replied. "People do." Outside, the city was bathed in a golden light. The street smelled of wet pavement and victory. I walked past a coffee shop window, caught my reflection, and almost didn't recognize the woman staring back. I wasn't the obedient daughter anymore. I was a woman who had learned to fight without raising her voice. Let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a family that seemed perfect from the outside. Our house on Elm Street had a white picket fence, well-trimmed hedges, and Sunday dinners that smelled like apple pie. People thought we were the ideal family, but behind those closed doors, things were very different. My father, Mr. Thompson, was a strict man who believed that love was shown through obedience. If something broke around the house, he'd call my name before reaching for a tool. "Deanna, hold the ladder." "Deanna, hand me the screwdriver." I learned to balance on ladders before I learned to relax. My hands were covered in small cuts from wood and nails, but he'd laugh and say, "You're tougher than any son I could have had." My mother, Mrs. Thompson, always wore a perfect smile. She'd say, "Family doesn't count debts." They said it so often that it became a mantra. What it really meant was that everything I gave them was expected, and everything they took was considered love. Then there was Lily. She was softer, prettier, and never had to lift a finger around the house. My father called her the delicate one, and my mother called her our pride. I used to be proud of her too. I believed that keeping the peace was my job, that fixing their messes was a sign of my devotion. When money got tight, my mother would sigh dramatically over the bills, and somehow my wallet would open. At 18, I was helping with the mortgage payments. By 22, I was covering major repairs. It didn't feel wrong at the time, it felt like love. They told me I was good with numbers, so dependable, and I mistook their manipulation for gratitude. I remember one Christmas, standing by the window, watching my mother hand Lily a small jewelry box. Inside was a diamond necklace. "It's for our little fashion designer," my mother said. Lily hugged her, and I forced a smile, pretending I didn't feel the chill crawl up my arms. That necklace probably cost the same as 4 months of my rent at the time. But family doesn't count debts, right? It all started to fall apart one night. I came home late from work, my shoes damp from the rain. I heard my name through the kitchen door. I should have kept walking, but something in my mother's voice stopped me. "She doesn't realize all her help was voluntary," she said quietly but clearly. When we sell the house, it'll just be our names on the papers. My chest tightened. Sell the house, our house, the same place I'd painted, repaired, and financed piece by piece for years. My father's laugh came next, low and smug. Classic Deanna, all heart, no business sense. Then Lily's hesitant voice. But won't she expect something? My mother snorted. Expect what? She gave gifts. Gifts don't buy ownership. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. The room spun in silence, the air thick with the smell of leftover dinner and betrayal. I gripped the wall until my knuckles went white. Gifts, I whispered to myself, the word curdling in my mouth. They were dividing my effort like spoils, and I was the fool who had funded their comfort. I walked to my room without a sound, every step heavy, rehearsing the script they'd written for me my whole life. Be grateful. Be quiet. Be useful. But something inside me cracked that night. I didn't cry. I didn't confront them. I sat on the edge of my bed, the glow of my laptop reflecting in my eyes, and I started remembering every transfer, every bill, every time they'd said, just this once. Hours passed. The house went still. I could hear the rain against the window and the faint hum of the refrigerator, steady and unbothered, unlike my heartbeat. Then, just as I was about to close my laptop, my phone buzzed. 11:30 p.m. Mom, we changed all the locks. You don't have a home anymore. Let's see how brave you are now. Haha. The words burned into me one by one. I read them again, slower. Locks, home, brave. And that laugh, mocking, sharp, final. No call, no explanation, just that cold message glowing in the dark. I don't know how long I stared at it. Maybe a minute, maybe 10. Then something strange happened. I laughed, too. Soft at first, then louder until it echoed off the empty walls. Because in that moment, I saw the truth clearly for the first time. They hadn't shut me out. They'd freed me. I turned off the phone, opened my laptop again, and started typing. Not a message, not a plea, but a list. Dates, payments, repairs, every cent, every receipt, every promise. When I was little, my father used to say, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Fine. I would. By dawn, I had a folder named Proof. As the sun crept over the blinds, warming the cold air of my room, I made a quiet promise to myself. This time, I wasn't fixing anything for them. I was dismantling everything they'd built on me. The morning after that message, something inside me reset. No anger, no tears, just a clean, eerie calm. I brewed coffee, logged into work like nothing had happened, and started moving in silence. By day, I was still the dependable data analyst at a downtown firm. My coworkers had no idea that every spare minute was spent tracing back a different kind of data, my own history. I pulled old emails, bank transfers, utility statements, payments for roofing materials, contractor quotes I'd covered temporarily. Grocery receipts from the months they'd claimed they were broke. Every number had a story, and every story pointed in the same direction. They had taken, and I had paid. I started building what I called the ledger of truth. One column for what I'd given, one for what they'd promised. The totals were staggering. $52,000 toward the mortgage, $25,000 for renovations, $18,000 for emergencies, a total of $95,000 of my life. My father always bragged that I was the only one in the family who understood money. He just never realized how dangerous that would make me once I stopped using it for them. When my screen filled with lines of proof, I printed everything, labeled each stack, and tucked them into a file box under my desk. I didn't plan to run to court right away. Revenge, I decided, should age like wine, not explode like fire. I met with 3 different attorneys over the next few weeks. The first 2 spoke to me like I was just another hurt daughter looking for sympathy. The third one didn't. She leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "You've got a case," she said, "a solid one. It's not about the deed, it's about equity. If you can prove contribution and intent, you have standing." Intent. That word clicked. I thought about the text again. "Let's see how brave you are now." Haha. That wasn't just cruelty, it was proof. Malicious intent in writing. From that moment, every step I took was deliberate. I documented new transfers. I archived every voicemail my mother left pretending to check in. I backed up every file twice, one on my laptop, one in the cloud. At night, I'd sit at my desk watching the cursor blink beside the word evidence. My apartment was quiet except for the hum of the heater and the occasional ping of another bank alert confirming what I already knew. I had the upper hand. By the time spring rolled around, my case was airtight. My attorney was ready, the paperwork drafted. We just needed one final trigger, something that showed intent beyond question. It arrived right on schedule. 2 days after the anniversary of that lock-changing text, I got an email. The subject line read, "Urgent property sale notice." They were selling the house without telling me. I smiled. Finally, they'd handed me exactly what I needed. The court's decision came 6 weeks later. The house sold for more than they'd expected. After legal fees and taxes, my parents walked away with half of what they thought they'd retire on. They'd built their future on my obedience and watched it crumble under my evidence. I didn't move back in. That house was nothing but ghosts wearing the shape of family. Instead, I bought a small townhouse across town. The first thing I did was change the locks myself. New keys, new rules, new peace. Sometimes my phone lights up with their names, my father's emails full of guilt, my mother's voicemails dripping with regret, but I never answer. Some doors once closed stay that way. On quiet mornings, I sit by my window with coffee and sunlight warming my face, listening to the hum of my own space. No footsteps, no orders, no demands. Just quiet. Just mine. They changed the locks to keep me out. I changed mine to keep them from ever walking in again. They thought they were teaching me a lesson about loyalty. What they really taught me was how to live without them. Freedom didn't come with forgiveness, it came with boundaries and a brand new set of keys. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it just signs papers and walks away quietly. And that's enough. If you've ever had to rebuild from the wreckage your own family left behind, you're not alone. Your peace is worth protecting, even if you have to fight for it. Hit like, share your story in the comments, and subscribe for more true stories of quiet revenge and hard-won freedom.